Hi, I'm Pam, and this is my monthly update video letting you know everything that I was up to in the month of November. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. To start with, let's do a couple updates. In November, the Polymedia Network did their 24-hour charity stream, which was quite successful. We were raising money for the International Association for Suicide Prevention, and we met our goal of $4,000. I think we raised about $4,076 to be exact. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of great live podcasts and gaming, even a game show. It's always a good time. If you contributed and watched, thank you so much for your contribution. Also, if you missed it, you can see the videos over on the Polymedia YouTube channel. I will link that in the description below. You can see me playing Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown for 2 hours, and then Michelle and I did a live episode of Point and Drink Adventure, which was a lot of fun. We drank champagne cocktails and talked about some of our favorite games and movies from this year, or at least that we played this year. They didn't necessarily come out this year. There is also a stream highlights video if you just want to get the best parts. Also, as I'm recording this hasn't happened yet. It's happening tomorrow, but I'm going to be talking to Paul Morgan Stetler over on the Conversations with Curtis YouTube channel. He played Curtis in Phantasmagoria 2, which is a game I just finished streaming over on Twitch last month. I greatly enjoyed it, and he has a great channel where he does a lot of interviews with people who make games and people who play games and create content around it. So I'll be talking to him on a live stream, just going over sort of my history with gaming and YouTube and anything else that comes up, and taking questions and things from the chat. This will have already happened by the time this video is going up, but I will link to that video as well. And I actually have a vinyl pickup today. I've been waiting for this to come in for a long time. I think originally it was supposed to come in like Q1 of this year, and I just got it yesterday, I believe, and that is the El Paso Elsewhere soundtrack. El Paso Elsewhere was one of my favorite games from last year. It was an absolutely amazing time, and combined with the sort of drugged out Max Payne slow-mo action combat was also an absolute banger of a soundtrack. It combines sort of some like techno, dancey, industrial music with hip-hop and like lyrical tracks. I really love the lyrics of all of it. It's very like thumping, pulse-pounding kind of music that goes perfectly with the gameplay, but is also a lot of fun to listen to on its own. I've already listened through the vinyl yesterday when I got it. It's also very pretty. We've got Dracula on the cover, and it's got these nice little gold inlets, and then the protagonist who you're playing on the back. The record itself is just a plain black vinyl, and it takes the sort of elevator motif from the game. And it also comes with a really cool booklet, which sort of functions like a kind of diary. It's also, you don't want to read this without having beat the game, but yeah, just sort of a diary from the main character's perspective about the game. And yeah, it's really cool. Very glad this is finally in my hands because I've been waiting for so long. I love a good video game soundtrack, but I often feel like I lack the understanding and the vocabulary to really describe what I like about them. This video's sponsor, Skillshare, is helping me with my understanding of music and is making learning something new easier than ever. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives. There are thousands of classes to choose from. You can learn about finding your creative identity, graphic design, music, productivity, and more. Classes range from beginner to advanced, and there are also learning paths, which are curated, sequential class collections that help you master a specific skill or competency. I recently sought out a class on music theory, a simple one for beginners. This class goes over keys, chord progressions, melody, and rhythm. Important knowledge not just for people who make or produce music, but also really useful for someone who wants to talk about it intelligently. There's only so many times I can say, I like this game's soundtrack. It's good. Being more knowledgeable about music theory will let me give better critique of soundtracks while I'm doing game reviews. If you're interested in learning something new this fall, join Skillshare. The first 500 people to use the link in the description below will receive a 1-month free trial. So now let's move on to the games that I've been playing. Honestly, I've been spending a lot of hours with Dragon Age Veilguard, which I haven't finished yet, so I feel like I've beat less games than normal this time around, although I have decided to retire a few, which I will talk about at the end of this section. The first game that I finished was Silent Hill, a game which has been on my personal backlog for almost 25 years, one that I tried to play as a kid and always got too scared by. My partner Dylan and I finally decided we were going to play through the whole thing together, and that was an interesting experience. I actually made a whole video, quite a long one, about all of my thoughts and feelings about playing through Silent Hill now, and there were some really cool things that it did that I appreciated, like the music and the map and the atmosphere, but I also really didn't enjoy the act of playing it, or really even the act of watching someone else play it. So if you're interested in everything I have to say about Silent Hill, go check out that video. The next thing is something that my Wednesday co-op group has been plugging away at for it seems like quite a while, and this is Moving Out 2, a 4-player co-op group. It's one of those sort of coordination games. In this, you play a bunch of movers, and you have to pack up a series of houses that go from fairly normal type houses to things with like anti-gravity and spinning pieces and conveyor belts, and it just gets more and more complicated as you go. You're not too concerned about breaking most things. You can throw couches out windows, whatever you need to do in order to get it on that moving truck. And we had a lot of fun with this one. I did find it went on a little bit too long for my taste, and we didn't even do everything. Every level you get a certain amount of stars, and then new levels open up based on the number of the stars that you have. And we, after a while, just kind of wanted to beat it, and it took us a while, but it was very fun just coordinating with everyone, trying to beat time trials. One thing I really liked about it was that there were these hidden arcade carts, and they had really fun challenges that were on those arcade carts that were a little different than just moving furniture from A to B. Yeah, it was good. The levels were very, very creative. Occasionally quite frustrating, but there were some really fun things. Slingshotting furniture over rivers in order to get it where you want. It was just a lot of fun, and I do recommend it if you're looking for a silly kind of 4-player co-op game. The next thing I beat was a replay that I haven't played since I was probably, 12 or 13 years old, and this is King's Quest VII, the last King's Quest before it goes 3D. This game always appealed to me as a kid because it is so bright and colorful. It definitely takes a departure from the earlier games, which have, once they get in the later ones, they have very nice pixel art, but this looks like a Disney cartoon, and it's just very bright and colorful. This one stars Valenice and Rosella, Graham's wife and daughter, and Rosella is supposed to get married, but she wants to go off and have an adventure, and that's exactly what she does, finding herself in the troll kingdom, turned into a troll, while her mother chases after her, trying to reunite and save her. And I thought this was a really fun game. It's very simplified, like it's way easier in terms of puzzles than most of the other King's Quest games. It's also very forgiving. If you die, they just say, oh shoot, and you try again, so you don't have to worry about saving your game every 5 minutes, which I definitely appreciate. The voice acting is pretty good. It's beautiful. It's got some very catchy music in it as well. And I just like going through the various lands. You start off sort of in a desert, then you go to this kind of fairy tale town. There's an Ooga Booga land, which looks kind of like it's straight out of Nightmare Before Christmas. And then you're up in the clouds with the gods. And it's just a very pretty game. And I had a good time playing through it again. I also played through a new Metroidvania that Dylan had been talking about for a while, and it is Minishoot Adventures. This is a twin stick shooter, sort of with a top-down view. This is one of the few games where if you described it as a Zelda-like, I would agree, but I would also agree that it's a Metroidvania, and I don't think that Zelda-likes are Metroidvanias, but somehow it makes it work. You play this little ship, and you have to rescue other ships out in this sort of fallen kingdom. You have to fight monsters, go through dungeons. There's like a big overworld map that you explore, and as you get new abilities, like the ability to go over shallow water or jump or do really powerful shots that can destroy obstacles in your way, you open up more of the overworld, and then there's just little dungeons sort of littered throughout the overworld. There's some like big dungeons, which are your main objectives, and then there's little ones as well where you can find collectibles and ways to level up. It's very fun to play. Like, the twin stick shooting is really good. This is actually probably the first twin stick shooter Metroidvania that's really worked for me. I've tried them, a few of them before, and maybe it was the 2D layout in these, whereas this had a more isometric layout that worked better for me. Lots of fun, cool upgrades. It's very charming. Like, the visuals are nice. Like, I don't think it's like, whoa, wow, this is amazing looking, but it's, you know, nice visuals, very cute sound effects, and especially when you get a new upgrade or something, your ship kind of twirls around and chirps in a very adorable way. I had a great time with this. This is one of the only games where I started it on the hard mode. Usually I just play everything on normal, but Dylan kept telling me hard mode wasn't too bad, so I played through on advanced, and it's true, it wasn't too bad. It's also the kind of game where you're sort of leveling up as you go, so you can grind if you want, although I'm not a grinding type person, so I had not maxed out my character by the time I beat it. But aside from not maxing out my character, and then at the end of the game, there's sort of a bunch of challenge fights, I did collect 100% of everything on the map and fight the final boss and the final boss. So I had a lot of fun with it, and yeah, Minishoot Adventures, really good. I think only available on PC right now. I hope it would come to console at some point, but definitely one to check out if you like twin sticks or Zelda-likes or Metroidvanias. And then there were a bunch of games I decided I was going to retire. Some of them had been sort of sticking around on my playing list. The first game is Immortals of Aveum. I believe this came out last year, and it's sort of a magic shooter. Like, it plays like a first-person shooter, except it's all magic spells. And this game sort of came out and flopped immediately, which was pretty sad. Because I actually, when I started, I was like, oh, this is surprisingly good. Like, the characters were cool, it looked beautiful, the magic abilities were fun to use. There's just tons of different items and magic spells and ways to equip yourself. I actually had a pretty good time with it while I was playing it. It just got to a point after, you know, a handful of hours where I felt like I don't really need to play anymore. Like, I had fun with the time I spent with it, but I also felt like most of the time I'd rather be playing something else if I was going to sit down and play a game. So yeah, a strange recommendation, especially this is super cheap. I think I got it for like $5 or something. So if you're looking for a kind of open worldy magic shooter with a, you know, a pretty decent story to follow along, I do recommend this, although it's, you know, it's a perfect kind of 7 out of 10 type game. Another game that I tried and decided I wasn't going to beat is Cryptmaster. This is one that just came out this year, and when I saw the trailers for it, I was pretty excited. It looked really interesting. It's a typing game dungeon crawler. So you're playing a party of 4 characters going through dungeons, like one's a warrior, one's a rogue, one's a mage. I forget what the other one is. And you're going through these dungeons and you're typing all your commands. So while you're in combat, you're typing the spell or the ability that you're using. A lot of it is about puzzles. So you find a chest and you get a riddle and you have to solve the riddle. And as you're solving riddles, certain letters that are used in the answers will then sort of come onto each of your characters if applicable. And then you have to guess the names of those abilities, or sometimes they have something to do with your character's backstory rather than ability. And I thought that was really interesting. I really liked the riddle aspect and like the word guessing aspect, but I didn't like playing it that much. And first of all, I did buy it on Xbox, which was the wrong place to play it, although I just knew I wasn't going to play it on my PC. Like, it would be better and way faster if I could just type rather than having to use the Xbox controller. Although there are a lot of shortcuts. Like, if you start typing, it'll like autofill the words that you already know or that you use frequently. So there are, ways to keep things going. But my biggest problem was the combat, because every character gets a list of a ton of abilities. Like, this one just does damage, this one heals someone, this one buffs this guy, this one debuffs an enemy. And there's just too many words to remember when you have to like type them out in order to cast them. Like, it's not like you can just go in your menu and be like, oh, this spell does this thing, which would be way slower. But so I found in combat, I was always just like, had a few words in my head and I would use those over and over. And that just got really tired after a bit. Like, I still like the puzzles and I think it's a very clever idea. It looks very cool. Some of the voice acting is really good. It can respond to you typing a lot of things in various, often amusing ways. But yeah, I just found the combat got quite tedious. So I decided I was going to retire that a few hours in. Another one that my Wednesday group tried and quickly retired is called All You Need Is Help. This is another 4-player co-op game. You each play a little block character, and it's basically a series of puzzles where you each turn into some kind of Tetris piece. Not necessarily a Tetris piece, because sometimes you're more than 4 blocks or less than 4 blocks, but then you get a pattern and you have to arrange yourself in order to fill out the pattern. And one thing that really requires cooperation is that you can't just spin yourself. You need to like get other people to help you turn, or like find a fence and push up against it in order to turn and rotate your character. I feel like this is a baby game for babies, not really for adults. It might be fun if you have smaller children to play with, but everything was like, it's very nice looking, like everything is well done. It's a very polished game, but it was just so like sickeningly sweet. Like the music, the little sound effects, every time you go into a level, your characters are like, let's work together. And it's just like a lot. And the puzzles were all very, very easy. So we played this for one night and no one was really interested in playing it again. And the last thing is another new Metroidvania. This one just came out this year as well. It's called Aestik. It is, your typical kind of 2D platformer. If you look at it visually, it will remind you quite a bit of Hollow Knight. I personally don't call things Hollow Knight ripoffs because, everything does their own thing. There are some similarities there, but it also does some of its own things. You play a little cat thing going through this world. You have to make decisions as part of it, like whether to kill something or not kill something. And it does have different story ramifications based on your actions in the game. I found everything about this game just kind of fine. It controls all right. The level design isn't my favorite. I found there are a lot of places where if you end up going quite far only to find out you don't have the ability you need, and then the backtracking can get a little bit tedious. Fast travel is something that I only opened up pretty late on in my playthrough. It was just all fine. My main thing was that there's just so many other good Metroidvanias to play, so I put in maybe 3-ish hours. I feel like I'm probably about halfway through the game. I don't think it's a very long one, but overall it just felt a little bit, I don't know, I guess mediocre to me. Like, nothing in particular wrong with it, just like a bunch of little things that ended up with me not having a great time. So yeah, that one I retired as well. So that's it for this update video. Leave me a comment, let me know what you've been playing lately, if there are any games you want to recommend to me, or if you've got any interesting pickups. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. If you want to see more, go check out my video about Silent Hill, or another of my videos. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.